Here's a tip. Let's say you bet big on a 4-game moneyline parlay. Your first 3 bets have hit, but you're a little nervous about the last game. Consider placing a separate bet against the team you have winning in your parlay. You're technically a winner either way. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
You studied the stats. You had the perfect bracket until your upsets turned into regrets. SportsGrid rides the highs and lows of every buzzer beater, bracket buster, and Cinderella story.
The Big Ten Freshman of the Year!
Our team brings you sharp insights, real-time reactions, and all the madness. Only on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on.
Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome in. This is FST. It's Fantasy Sports Today. My name's Matt Stryker. His name is Joe Pizzapia. Sam Y, the sports guy, and TD Jake behind the glass, making this show go. What's the show about, you ask? If you're new, it's about dominating. Look, you love baseball. I love baseball. We all love baseball. Why not get paid for it? Season-long fantasy, we've got you covered. You're still playing DFS? You're smart. You can still make money. Straight up wagering, that's my wheelhouse. Speaking of wheelhouses, let's get into Joey P, Joe Pizzapia, the author of the Fantasy Black Book. It has absolutely changed the way that a generation has played fantasy sports and wagered upon sports. And for that alone, Joe, I say thank you. I welcome you in. I may or may not have been up all night, but I'm excited, my friend. Let's talk baseball.
Yeah, I like this energy. I don't know where it's coming from. This is that toddler in the house energy that Matt Stryker's got some days, and we'll see. We'll see. Hour 2, if it can sustain. That's what I'm looking forward to. You might be one of these guys that comes out of the pen throwing 100 miles an hour, but it's only for an inning or two. That's the question, Matt Stryker. That is the question.
By the time we get to the Mariners, I'll be like, yeah, that's how
But look, we've had our full first week of baseball. It's still way too small of a sample size to really garner too much information, but there's certainly a lot of headlines, and I think a lot of them coming from a certain finite number of teams, too, including the Red Sox. Let's talk about the Orioles, though, in that division first, because Gunnar Henderson is back. Now, unfortunately, he has 5 strikeouts in his first 9 at-bats, but he's still back. He was dealing with an intercostal strain, a.k.a. the oblique issue, a.k.a. what happens to everybody every single spring now. So it's good to have him back and healthy. It's going to take him a little while, obviously, to get his feet under him and get back into the groove of things. The Boston Red Sox are making a lot of noise, throwing a lot of money around, and rightfully so. This is really smart. So over the week, you had not 1 but 2 extensions given out by the Boston Red Sox. One to Christian Campbell, extending him for a large number of years, and then Garrett Crochet, who they required from the White Sox in this offseason. Now, these are 2 huge pieces of this team going forward. So smart to lock them up. Sure, there's risk in there, but the amount of money they're paying him, I don't think so. If you look so far, what's going on, Crochet was my pick for American League Cy Young. Christian Campbell, certainly one of these guys in that mix for Rookie of the Year, but Crochet could be that dominant front-end starter. And when you're looking at Garrett Crochet in this future, along with Christian Campbell, along with some of the other kids coming through this organization, you signed Alex Bregman in the offseason too. The Red Sox, I feel, really have pushed in the chips to the middle of the table. And Matt, I don't know what your take is on this, but I think this is genius because I think it also frees up money for them to go after free agents now that you've locked up some of these younger assets for longer periods of time and very team-friendly deals.
Yeah, from an overall perspective, if we look at it from fantasy or from wagering, this gives us peace of mind. It gives us an understanding. In a league that's still very volatile, first month of the season, we're looking as bettors for things we know. So we have some consistency here with the Red Sox. We understand who's going to be on the field every single day. But it also brings up a larger conversation as to a choice that teams have. Teams can either start to recycle guys and pay them a fee year over year, and we're going to see a robust free agent season. Or teams can lock up the guys that they know for the next 5, 6, 7 years are going to produce and not have to play that game. And that's an interesting thing to think about when you look at the financials of baseball as well, Joe.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, looking at the financials, the San Diego Padres, who've gotten off to a great start. We've talked about, the Dodgers' great start. That's all anybody want to talk about. The Padres were right there with them, though, and they have locked up their young star, Jackson Merrill, to a long-term contract as well. So another, I would say, pretty team-friendly deal, 9 years, $135 million contract extension that buys out all those arbitration years, just like Christian Campbell, and gives them extra. Look, if you're going to offer a 22-year-old kid $100 million plus guaranteed, any 22-year-old kid should take that. You just never know what's going to happen, and that is money that sets you up for generational wealth. So good on Christian Campbell, Jackson Merrill, Garrett Crochet. But another smart move here by the Padres, because now you have Jackson Merrill and Fernando Tatis wrapped up for a long period of time. Manny Machado is in his 30s now, right? We expect decline coming in the years ahead for him. But you've got these other two core pieces for the Padres now, Matt, that allows you to build off of them and continue to do your best to keep pace with the Dodgers. It's a tough world to do that. It's a tough division.
Yeah.
But you got to give the Padres credit. I think this is one of the smarter ways to go about their business.
You don't want to let the cool kids in school dictate the clothes you wear day in and day out. And I want the Padres to be really careful here because I understand they look up and they see, hey, the Dodgers are doing all of this and we're still within striking distance. That's one thing as a wagerer. How many of us are looking at teams like the Padres and going, I don't know, if I can catch a nice plus money and something happens to the Dodgers, that's the team I'm looking at. So for the Padres to understand that they have to be smart. Jackson Merrill's smart. But do some more smart things, but then also don't let the Dodgers move your hand that's writing the checks, Joe.
Something tells me that you had a pair of Z Cavaricis in high school.
I did not. I did not. Thank you very much. I did not.
Okay.
I borrowed a pair. And I'll never forget this. I walked down the stairs and my father said, "You are wearing clown pants." I spun on my heel and went back upstairs and took them off and gave them back to my friend that day. Yeah, man, Cavaricis were a big thing. I never had them.
Skids and Cavaricis.
Oh,
it was like a year
skids,
there.
Dude. Tons.
I didn't have either. I didn't have either of these. And for those people under the age of 40 right now, listen to us. I understand. You have no idea. Google them, realize how ridiculous Cavaricis looked, or just watch any episode of Saved by the Bell. That'll give you a pretty good idea. But they were very strange because they were very high-waisted and then yet
pleated and then puffy. You look like a swashbuckler. If all I needed was a sword and a hat. And I'm on my way.
Look, that might have made it a little bit more intimidating. Yeah, the sword and at least something's going right there. Not going right for the Atlanta Braves. Look at that transition. Jerickson Profar, PD suspension for 80 games, half the season going to be missed by Jerickson Profar. So this is a big blow. This was one of the bigger offseason moves that the Braves made. They knew going into the year they weren't going to have Ronald Acuna at the start of the season, so it gave them a little bit of depth in the outfield. And then what was so curious, Matt, is they went ahead and they signed Alex Verdugo late. And people were going, well, that's kind of an odd signing. They seem to have a lot of outfielders. I think they knew what was going on here, and it was a matter of time before it got public and everything got released. So they were just trying to basically give themselves a little bit more of a time window there. But Jerickson Profar is going to miss half the season for the Braves. We did get news on Ronald Acuna, actually, that he is working towards getting out there in the field. So everything seems to be progressing the right way for him. We're expecting him somewhere, give or take, May 1st. And that is, about less than a month away now. So that's good news for the Braves. But this is certainly bad news because Profar, coming off a career season, they were looking at him to help this team get off to a good start. And this team, frankly, has not gotten off to a good start so far in April.
Listen, there are 30 teams in the league that carry 40-man rosters. So do that math. You don't think that people around the league know Jerickson Profar, know what he does, know where he gets his stuff from? You don't think the Braves were aware of the fact that this is the first time this guy's ever doing this? There are things in sports, a camaraderie, if you will, and sometimes, hey, you need to go get something. Yeah, get a hold of so-and-so because he has it. So let's just move that aside. I don't know anyone that was living or dying on Profar, whether it be in fantasy or in wagering. So move it aside and concentrate on the guys that are on the field. Concentrate on the fact that we're going to talk about in a little bit of the way that you can catch the Braves on a discount here. Because of that slow start, call it what you will, a lot of numbers have changed. I'm looking at things like that. April, the first couple of weeks of April, I don't want to say they don't count, but they don't count. That's something that you're using as a measuring stick. You're watching baseball. Oh my gosh, I'd be amazed if people actually did that these days. But you're looking at box scores. You're following along. You're knowing who's doing what. Because come May, we got to start really wagering. And I want to be wagering with their money, not mine. Because, Joe, I don't want to be in a hole come June. Father's Day being down, that's no fun.
No, it's not. Look, I got to say, the first couple of days of the season, a little rocky for me. Back on track last week, getting back into investing on strikeout props, things you can control, some easy total bases when you see guys on the mound that are just not very good against really good hitters. Get back to basics when you're wagering. Also, we're going to take you through some of those moving markets. But when we come back, we're going to talk about more players that are going to be missing time besides Profar. We're talking about the injuries, and a big one in LA, how you can replace Freddie Freeman, at least in the meantime, on your fantasy team. We'll be right back with more FST right after this.
Guys are barreling everything right now that are hitting well. Pitching is usually ahead of hitting this time of year, but torpedo bats is what we're reading about, Tom, and I think it's hilarious.
Will the pitching be out in front, or are the bats actually this strong? So it's going to develop over the course of weeks. And again, if all teams have the ability to do so, be creative with it and get out there and use it.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
They won the game, and a lot of people, I think, are, prematurely writing them off. Like, I heard a lot of people say they're not even making the playoffs this year.
What I give them credit for right now, Scott, I'm not going to pencil them to win the division yet. Let's see how they do. What I give the Red Sox credit for, and this sounds like silly, I give them credit for actually trying this year.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Dukas looked really impressive, and it's why they are a minus money favorite to go ahead and cut down the Nets in San Antonio. Kevin Willard's a hell of a coach. There's no mistaking it. Sussman's going to kill me. I think he's going to do a good job at Villanova. The Villanova people are very happy with him, and they think that he's going to do a great job.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back into FST Fantasy Sports Today. Matt and Joe with you here, giving you everything you need in order to dominate. If you're new to the show or perhaps you've lapsed, a quick reminder, at SportsGrid TV. Those are our social media handles. Do yourself a favor, double check that you're following along, because we talk about so much here on the show. So much is said on this network overall. A lot of it lives there where you can take it at your convenience. All right, Joe, it's time to get into the injury report. And what I like that we're going to do here is we're going to talk about guys that are injured, talk about how long they'll be out, but then we're also going to talk about some options. Where can I go if, say, I've rostered Freddie Freeman and all of a sudden he, quote unquote, slips getting into the shower. Sure, we've all done that. And now he's on the 10-day IL with a right ankle sprain. What to do?
Yes, but I don't think Freddie Freeman was having shower beers. I'm just saying. I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong. I don't know. Just saying. But yeah, look, Freddie Freeman is 35 years old too. And I think this is something you have to understand. Last year in the playoffs, you saw him just warrior battle through a bunch of injuries, right? And somehow get on the field and have just a huge moment to in that World Series, which was really cool for Freddie Freeman. But this is not surprising to think he's going to have some more of these issues as the season goes on. So having depth at first base is important. Now, the good news is this is just retroactive to last week. So you're going to get him back late next week. The problem is in weekly leagues, do you want to wait all the way to Friday or even Saturday to activate him? That's probably a hard no. So you got to look for some temporary replacements. So these are some of the names that are on the waiver wire. Nathaniel Lowe is a guy that's out there for the Nationals who's available in a lot of leagues. He is a very easy pickup. He's going to have a decent batting average for you. Got some decent matchups this week. I know Wilmer Flores has had a ton of power to start the year. He's got 4 homers, but he's only hitting 250 and the OBP is under 300. I would avoid him. This is something he does all the time where he has like a hot week. It happens to be the first week in the season. And then you end up picking Wilmer Flores up and you end up dropping Wilmer Flores. It's a whole thing. Gavin Sheets of the Padres, first baseman, outfielder, depending on the depth of your league there, hitting 380 so far this year, a 619 slugging. He's put up some pretty good numbers here as well early on. Nolan Chanel, also of the Los Angeles Angels, pretty decent. Again, the power right now, a little slow to things, no homers yet, but the batting average there, 290. So those are some names that can help you right away off the waiver wire. Carlos Santana, a veteran too, that's an easy pickup where you could just add him for the week, IL Freeman, and then just make that swap and for a buck, just drop him back down again next week. So that's an easy fix to me, or those are some of the names at least that you can patch things together. But I think keeping one of these guys on your bench might be smarter. If I had to pick one, Lowe would be the guy that I think has the most long-term, upside and stability. If you do end up having Freddie Freeman miss time again, and Matt, that's a real question. You might have him miss time again at this age and the way his body may be starting to break down a little bit after all these years of productivity.
Well, we talked about it on the draft shows and the pre-shows, is finding these guys with dual eligibility. All of a sudden, Jake Berger, who has first base, third base eligibility, becomes far more valuable. I'm just using that because it's the first name that came to my mind. Also, in some leagues, a guy like Rhys Hoskins could be floating around, and that could be something. But one thing I've learned is the metric that we use when looking to stream. So when it comes to things like this, Joe and I often talk about, if you don't have time, you look at 2 metrics. There's walks, and you look at the OBP. And that's going to tell you everything that you need to know about hitters and pitchers as well. Well, pitchers don't have OBPs, but walks tells you a lot. Let's move to a pitcher now that's going to undergo arthroscopic surgery and what it means.
Yeah, Reynaldo Lopez was kind of a revelation last year, came out of nowhere, won a lot of people some leagues because his productivity was off the charts and his cost was off the waiver wire. So that's a huge situation now. He had the surgery on Tuesday. I'm sorry, he's got it scheduled for this Tuesday. It's an arthroscopic surgery. So we'll see how things progress. There's a scenario where he might be out for 3 or 4 months. There's a scenario where he's out for the rest of the year. I think it depends on when they go in there and what they see. But I'm not holding my breath here for him. I'm putting him on the IL for now. I'm not just going to drop him for now just to see how things come out for that surgery. But you've got to be looking for other options off the waiver wire. We're going to talk about Casey Mize a little later in the show. That's a name that's out there in a lot of leagues still, and he looks like a pitcher who's starting to turn things around a little bit. If you're looking ahead right now, it's tough because a lot of these younger starting pitchers have been picked up already. But there are some guys out there. They're starting to get off to some better starts, or you can at least stream a Louis Varland for say, right? We're looking at him potentially. There's a name as well that I'm going to get to in just a moment from Milwaukee that is also one to keep an eye on. But basically what you're trying to do here is stream and patch things together in the short term, and then hopefully you get Reynaldo Lopez back. But Matt, I don't know about you. I'm not cautiously optimistic about this one. It feels like shoulder surgery. We're going to be missing him, and that stinks for the Braves because they're still waiting to get Spencer Strider back, and now they lost another piece in this rotation. A team that got off to a terrible start to the season is already having some issues. No Lopez, no Profar, waiting on Acuna, waiting on Strider. The Braves are having a rough month of April.
Cool. Have it now. I'd much rather this team have it now than wait and have it much later, because I know as a wagerer, and Joe and I were talking about it, it's been a little rough. First couple of weeks or the first week and a half with only a few wins here and there. But there's some things we know to stay away from, and one of them just happens to be the Atlanta Braves until they right this ship. With regards to Lopez and how to replace him, look, if you were hinging your entire fantasy season on Ronaldo Lopez, we should have a much larger conversation. Streaming pitching is something that you can start doing now. It becomes tedious, but it's always going to be there for you if you pay even a modicum of attention. We got time for a couple of more. Give me a closer and then give me a big name pitcher that may be coming back soon.
Yeah, Alexis Diaz began his rehab assignment this weekend on Friday, so hopefully he will be joining the team sometime next week. Santillan and Ashcraft have been kind of getting that save situations for the Reds. Not that there's been a lot. They've lost a lot of one-run games this year, a lot of 1-0 games. Really tough start. I'd be buying Ellie De La Cruz and Matt McClain wherever I could because those guys are still super talented, but not the start the Reds wanted to get off to offensively, and hopefully getting this bullpen piece back sooner than later. And it does seem like Diaz is going to take that job back. I'd be very surprised if a veteran manager like Terry Francona didn't just give that job back to the veteran who's established in that role. And then lastly, Lucas Giolito, 2 1/3 scoreless innings Wednesday at AAA. He's going to make another start soon. He'll be potentially joining this rotation shortly. Giolito, a pitcher who, again, is joining a really good Boston Red Sox roster with a lot of upside. And right now he's only rostered in 32% of leagues. So if you're missing a Lopez, I give you a Lucas Giolito who's sitting there on the waiver wire. That's a guy you could add right now. And hopefully he's up to speed within the next 2 weeks and can take that spot, because when Lucas Giolito is healthy, he has shown you he can be a very good major league pitcher. The problem is health has not been his friend recently. Now we've taken a lot of shots at the Atlanta Braves, but as Matt said, it's good to have your worst month in April and not in September. So how does that affect the market for the Braves to win the East? We'll tell you when we come back, because maybe there's some value there.
Guys are barreling everything right now that are hitting well. Pitching is usually ahead of hitting this time of year, but torpedo bats is what we're reading about, Tom, and I think it's hilarious.
Will the pitching be out in front, or are the bats actually this strong? So it's going to develop over the course of weeks. And again, if all teams have the ability to do so, be creative with it and get out there and use it.
Game time decisions only on SportsGrid.
They won the game, and a lot of people, I think, are, prematurely writing them off. Like, I heard a lot of people say they're not even making the playoffs this year.
What I give them credit for right now, Scott, I'm not going to pencil them to win the division yet. Let's see how they do. What I give the Red Sox credit for, and this sounds like silly, I give them credit for actually trying this year.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Duke has looked really impressive, and it's why they are a minus money favorite to go ahead and cut down the Nets in San Antonio. Kevin Willard's a hell of a coach. There's no mistaking it. Sussman's going to kill me. I think he's going to do a good job at Villanova. The Villanova people are very happy with him, and they think that he's going to do a great job.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back into FST Fantasy Sports today. Matt and Joe with you here. And for those that are new, Joe and I have been doing this thing here for the better part of 5 years. It's absolutely amazing. And some of the conversations we have during the breaks are just friendship conversations. I mentioned to Joe that my kids were with my in-laws, and Joe said, "So what did you and the wife do last night? Hot night?" I was like, "Yeah, we watched TV," and she fell asleep on the couch. That's pretty much what it
That sounds
is.
about right.
But don't poo-poo it, because I promise you, one day, all of you out there will say, "I wish for a night where I can just fall asleep on the couch." And when we do that, we are happy. And we're happy when our pockets are fat. Joe, you alluded to before the break, a nice little shift, taking advantage of a really good team off to a slow start. So let's start there. Market watch time here. A team to win their division was minus 115. Now, after this pace of play, it is actually at 3-1. Talk about this team, talk about this opportunity.
Yeah, the Braves are 1-8 to start the year, and that's not good. The Phillies are off to a 6-2 start. The Mets are 5-3. The Marlins are 5-3, and then there's Sam, our producer's Nationals, at 2-6. A little underwhelming. We're still fingers crossed for Dylan Cruz. More on him in hour 2. But the Braves have gotten off to a terrible start. But they're also missing their best pitcher, and they're missing their best player. So at some point, they're going to get those guys back, and by mid-May, I think this Braves team is going to look a lot different. And I still pick the Phillies to win this division because I think that starting pitching 1 through 5 is really good, and eventually get Suarez back healthy. And I know our TD Jake, absolutely, huge Philly fan, just loves that Luzardo start to the year, who's been electric so far. So what an incredible return on investment he's been for the Phillies, but also in fantasy. We talked about him as a post 200 ADP pitcher. So he's been terrific. Wheeler's always going to be good. Nola's always going to be good. Sanchez is really good. So I think that Philly pitching over time is just markedly better than the Mets, and then deeper than what the Braves are going to be able to offer you, especially with Lopez on the shelf. But the Braves are going to be back, and I think the Braves still could make a run at this division if they get healthy and if they stay healthy the rest of the year. So the key here for the Braves is no more setbacks. You lost Profar, you lost Lopez. You kind of have to tread water here. Maybe you get back to 500 in the month of April when it closes. If you could get back to 500, you're in good shape. You got plenty of time. Let's not get crazy. But look, the favorite, quote unquote, for this division that was minus money is now 3-1. So if you like the Braves and you bet them before, this is the time to double down on the Braves, because you're not going to see a better number than this probably all year. This, I imagine, is the low watermark for the Atlanta Braves in this division. Matt, would you agree, especially with the Nats and the Marlins? Those teams are going to, especially the Marlins, are going to come back down to earth after this pretty good first week.
Listen, for those of us that are old enough to remember, cut it out. And shout out to Dave Coulier, and I hope you get well soon. But this is a nonsensical conversation. At the end of the day, no one is going to remember what the Braves were for the first 2 weeks of April, unless we find ourselves in June, and this is just who this team has become. But when you look at the Braves, they aren't just patchwork. This is a team that know each other season over season. There's a cohesion to this ball club. You think they're looking around going, our season's done? I don't think so at all. So Joe's right here. 3-1, absolutely, I would throw something on that just to be a part of it. This next conversation, though, is a little different, because if you didn't get on this particular next wager at plus 320, it's now minus 125. How did you not see that coming? Joe, talk about who it is and what the wager.
Yeah, Aaron Judge is good at baseball. In some markets, it's down to minus 155 now already, because Aaron Judge has gotten off to a tremendous start. And we should have seen this coming whenever you have the first week of games in Yankee Stadium, that itty-bitty little tiny ballpark that we like to call Yankee Stadium. It's so adorable. It's so cute. I want to put it on a Christmas ornament and hang it on my tree. It's so adorable. But Aaron Judge basically already in that heavy minus. So what does that mean? It means, as Matt was saying, the Judge trade is passing you by unless you want to duo bet him and Ohtani together and do the I'm a boring, it's just what it is. Sorry, everybody. It's Judge and Ohtani. That's a fine wager. I still got no problem. I got no beef with that. It does open up the market to some other spots, though, because now you're getting better numbers on Bobby Witt Jr., plus 550. Gunnar Henderson last year was fighting for that MVP. Obviously, slow start to the season because of the injury. He's plus 1,400. Vlad's got off to a quiet start, playing for a contract, plus 2,800. Julio Rodriguez, plus 2,500. Jose Ramirez, plus 3,000. And then after that, it's tough to make an argument for anybody. But I think the point is, if you like anybody but Aaron Judge, the field numbers you're getting right now are spectacular. So start to think about what things are going to look like come August and September, because that is the lasting impression on MVP voters. So the value on Judge is disappearing, but the value on everybody else in the American League might be at an all-time high right now, and it's early in the season, so take advantage of it. When we come back, more FST. Don't go anywhere, because we're going to go down on the farm and tell you what prospects you should be stashing on your roster.
These guys are barreling everything right now that are hitting well. Pitching is usually ahead of hitting this time of year, but torpedo bats is what we're reading about, Tom, and I think it's hilarious.
Will the pitching be out in front, or are the bats actually this strong? So it's going to develop over the course of weeks. And again, if all teams have the ability to do so, be creative with it and get out there and use it.
Game time decisions only on SportsGrid.
They won the game, and a lot of people, I think, are, prematurely writing them off. Like, I heard a lot of people say they're not even making the playoffs this year.
What I give them credit for right now, Scott, I'm not going to pencil them to win the division yet. Let's see how they do. What I give the Red Sox credit for, and this sounds like silly, I give them credit for actually trying this year.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Duke has looked really impressive, and it's why they are a minus money favorite to go ahead and cut down the Nets in San Antonio. Kevin Willard's a hell of a coach. There's no mistaking it. Sussman's going to kill me. I think he's going to do a good job at Villanova. The Villanova people are very happy with him, and they think that he's going to do a great job.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Welcome back into FST Fantasy Sports today, where my producer counts me in as if he is Sean Connery. And during the break, my co-host confirms the origin story of the 80s show Full House. This is what we're dealing with here, folks.
And I was right. I was right.
Here.
Talk about obscure, useless knowledge. Danny Tanner's dead wife was the sister, indeed, of Uncle Jesse. And I knew that, and I doubted myself, and I was right. So there you go. Useless. And take me to the trivia for the bar night things.
That's why you tune into this show each and every week, is to find out the origin stories behind your favorite 86 comms. Tune in next week, where we will attack Family Matters and Mr. Belvedere. All right, it's time to do the prospect watch. Now Joe's already looking up the origins. How did Mr. Belvedere arrive at the prospect watch?
All his pants so high. All right.
Joe and I are men of a certain age, but we do understand that, all kidding aside, baseball is about the young men coming into this game, but wagering on them, to me, is the trick, Joe. We want to get into this, but the books don't catch up on these young kids. A lot of times they just take the minor league numbers and they extrapolate. We know how dangerous that can be. But we have to be careful. In season-long fantasy, we don't want to spend too much to jump on the next kid, because out of 100 kids, two are going to turn out to be something, and you're going to waste your time. A lot of people running for Cam Smith. Well, right now you're going to have some growing pains. Let's talk about some prospects. Let's talk about some growing pains. Let's first go to the Athletics, because I love watching them, and it's a much different conversation because I love watching the kids play. I love the enthusiasm with which they attack the game. So let's talk about these Athletics. Who's the next guy on the list?
Did you do that on purpose, the growing pains? I was just curious.
I did
you
not. No, but
so
I should
good.
say that.
I thought that was so good the way he worked that in there.
No, I did.
I'm gonna
Yeah,
give you
I
credit
did.
for it anyway.
I did.
So
Bonus
good.
to bonus.
So
Okay,
good.
thanks.
All right, let's talk about Nick Kurtz of the Las Vegas Athletics or Sacramento Athletics or whatever the heck they are. They're just athletic. They're just wildly athletic. This guy has gotten off to a fantastic start so far in AAA. I mean, just off the charts. Now it is PCL, so PCL stats you always take with a little bit of grain of salt. But this kid came out of Wake Forest. He was 2024 draft. He was the 4th overall pick there. He was absolutely tremendous at Wake Forest, and now off to a start. 7 games, 3 homers, 11 RBI, hitting .433 with a 1336 OPS. Nick Kurtz has got to find somewhere, some room at the inn at some point, because this kid is mashing. So what happens? How do we make room for Nick Kurtz? That becomes the big question.
Someone
because
gets hurt.
you've got some. Well, it's a problem. It's either somebody has to get hurt or somebody's losing their job. Now, Brent Rooker is not moving from DH, right? He's going to stick around there, so he ain't going anywhere. Soderstrom at first base is playing pretty well, so that is a bit of a logjam too. So it's kind of a difficult calculus right now because Butler is locked in, Blade is locked in, Andahar would be the guy to bounce out. Now, the question is, do you see a Soderstrom start to work in the outfield or a Kurtz start to work in the outfield just to get some reps in left field to get his bat in there? Does Rooker move and play more outfield this year? I don't know. But what I do know is that Nick Kurtz is going to jump to the big league sooner than later. So now's the perfect time to just throw a buck or two on him over the weekend, stash him, and then hopefully at some point in the next 6 weeks, that stash is rewarded. And it's not for your 10-team shallow league. This is for your 12 and above, and this is for the spots where you have enough bench, because Nick Kurtz right now is just playing off the charts, and I think it's only a matter of time before he ends up with the Athletics.
How long before we start calling him George? And that's just a nod, a tip of the cap to our very own George Kurtz. It's not spelled the same at all, but shout out to George Kurtz, who's one of the longest reigning employees here at SportsGrid, man. It says a lot. All right, let's move on to the Boston Red Sox. Christian Campbell during camp was a name that was attached to this next name. I think people really need to pay attention because the Sox are coming, and this next young man is part of that. Joe?
Yeah, and this is another situation where do we make room for him, right? Abreu's gotten off to a good start. Rafaela, not so much. Devers is locked in the DH, right? So we're trying to figure out where we're going to stash Roman Anthony to play him. Roman Anthony so far this season, a little slow start here to the beginning, but everybody knows they want to get this kid going sooner than later. And here you guys 1 home run already. He's got a stolen base already too in AAA. So this one might take a little bit longer because there isn't, again, same thing, a very clear path. You can make one. And if Rafael Devers is really unhappy in Boston, it might come to pass eventually that they end up making some sort of deal to move on from Rafael Devers somewhere else. And I know that sounds like insanity, but considering this group of kids that they have that are going to be young and controllable, and if Devers is going to be negative about that position change, negative in the clubhouse, he has a very friendly contract compared to the Vlad Guerreros of the world and what they're going to get in the offseason. Some team that's third base needy might say, we don't care about the defenses. You want to play third base, we'll let you because we just want you in there. I think an injury to Trevor Story actually would be the way to clear a path sooner than later for Roman Anthony. Because if Story goes down, you would move Rafaela to short. You can move Abreu to center or just play Roman Anthony in center too if you really want to go down that road. So that's the path for Anthony. Another guy worth stashing. Kurtz would be number 1 for me because I think he's just on fire right now and they might not have a lot of reason to keep him down too much longer. Anthony, you can understand it. Plus, they just paid Christian Campbell too, so maybe he's more of a slow play, but certainly one to monitor nonetheless.
All right, now I want to clear my schedule for this next conversation. Dolores, please clear my schedule. We're talking White Sox catching prospects here. Very, very important. Thank you. Dolores is a wonderful woman. You talk about having log jams at certain positions, having players in front of prospects. The White Sox don't have that problem. At catcher, they have a prospect. They actually have a few that could really turn this team around the next few seasons. Let's talk.
Yeah. Corey Lee and Matt Theis are not going to stop Kyle Teal from playing anytime soon. Let's just put that out there and let's just keep real about it. Kyle Teal is the piece that came over with Garrett Crochet in that trade. So far, Kyle Teal off to a pretty good start here in the minor leagues. He got 2 home runs to start the year, 9 RBI. He's a catcher with pop. he's, I think something you have to show if you're the White Sox. If we're going to deal Crochet, we got to show you how good this everyday player is going to be. And the minor league track record is really good. It's a 300 hitter in the minor leagues, a 400 on base guy. Like I said, he's got power. He's got hit tool. He's a good defensive catcher. He's got everything you want. So the sooner you get him up here working with the young pitchers, the better. And he might actually leapfrog these first two by a lot because, again, the path is so much easier. It's just a matter of, do the White Sox want to start that clock? I think they have to, just a little bit, for that fan base, show them what we're trying to do here, what the future is going to be. They want Robert to get off to a better start that he's gotten off to as well, because that's another piece you can cash in on and start to turn this organization around to get more everyday players in there. But Teal is that first salvo into that space, and there's nothing stopping him at this point. So sometimes young catchers do struggle when they get to the big leagues, though, because they're too worried about, and rightfully so, working with the pitchers, and their offense kind of slides a little bit. But Teal is a really good hitter, so I'd be looking at Kyle Teal maybe to be the first of all these guys to reach the big leagues.
All right. I like it. I also like bats, and I like when bats come up, especially when they come up in Colorado, and that's what we're going to talk about here. An outfielder who just, the exit velocity, the ball jumps off the bat. It's one of those things. My father used to sometimes watch baseball with his eyes closed and say, "Why are you sleeping?" He said, "I'm not. I'm listening." You can listen to this young man and hear the ball jump off of his bat. Talk to us about this Colorado prospect, Joe.
Yeah, Zach Veen I've seen play in person a couple times, and he is a very explosive kind of player, right? He's got big-time power. Big-time strikeouts are in there too, but I think also a big-time personality. And when I saw him one of those games, he got thrown out for arguing balls and strikes. So Zach Veen should be playing for the Rockies. Instead, they signed Mickey Moniak off the scrap heap and gave him a job out there in center field. So what are we doing here? The Colorado Rockies as an organization continue to just befuddle me, and I don't have words for it. But Zach Veen, another guy worth monitoring. I think he's more of a monitor than a stash right now. Anthony's a stash, Kurtz is a stash, Teal is a stash. Veen is a monitor. And one more guy too that I would throw in this mix as well is the second base prospect Jace Young of the Detroit Tigers, because that's another one where how it all shakes out, we're not sure, but so far he's hitting. I know last year in the major leagues he did not, but so far in AAA he's off to a good start. He's another guy worth monitoring. Could be a piece in a deal for the Tigers to move somebody. Could also eventually take over and maybe move Gleyber Torres somewhere else. So keep a close eye on some of these players too, because they are going to be here, as Matt said, sooner than later. More FST by the numbers when we return right after this.
Guys are barreling everything right now that are hitting well. Pitching is usually ahead of hitting this time of year, but torpedo bats is what we're reading about, Tom, and I think it's hilarious.
Will the pitching be out in front, or are the bats actually this strong? So it's going to develop over the course of weeks. And again, if all teams have the ability to do so, be creative with it and get out there and use it.
Game time decisions only on SportsGrid.
They won the game, and a lot of people, I think, are, prematurely writing them off. Like, I heard a lot of people say they're not even making the playoffs this year.
But I give them credit for right now, Scott. I'm not going to pencil them to win the division yet. Let's see how they do. What I give the Red Sox credit for, and this sounds like silly, I give them credit for actually trying this year.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Duke has looked really impressive, and it's why they are a minus money favorite to go ahead and cut down the Nets in San Antonio. Kevin Willard's a hell of a coach. There's no mistaking it. Sussman's going to kill me. I think he's going to do a good job at Villanova. The Villanova people are very happy with him, and they think that he's going to do a great job.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Welcome back into FST. It's Fantasy Sports today. My name's Matt. His name's Joe. We have an incredible team here. And normally I will bring forward the conversations that we have during the break. This time I shall not. Some things remain in-house, but just know that we're all having a really great time here, and we hope that it's translating. Joe, it's time to go by the numbers here. Our producer is a sick boy. I just want you guys to know.
Yeah,
but we love him.
sick.
We love him. Sam Y, the sports guy, wonderful human being. From the neck up, little dodgy. All right, let's go by the numbers here, and let's talk about some name brand players that are doing some name brand things. Let's talk. Let's start in Chicago. Kyle Tucker, big deal, huh? Let's go.
Yeah, a big deal. Like the first couple games weren't the best, but if you look here for 2 for 16 for Kyle Tucker over his first 4 games. After that, things got better. He was then 10 for 18 with 4 homers and OPS over 1,300. Not too shabby, but this is more of a discussion about April. You spend weeks, if not months, preparing for your fantasy league. You have your fantasy draft, and then somebody goes 0 for 8 or 2 for 16, and fantasy managers start to freak out. Now, would they freak out if this was the middle of July? No, of course not. Do they freak out because it's the first week of April? Yes, they do. Because it's the first thing they've seen, so the sky is always falling. Most of the time, the guys will play to the back of their baseball cards. Sometimes there are situations, and we're going to get into one this hour, where I am concerned about everything that I see from a player. Body language, performance, productivity, all of that. But when you have these great players like Kyle Tucker, you have to be patient. And even the mediocre players, you got to be a little bit more patient. You can't just start cutting guys left and right. If you want to bench guys that are getting off to bad starts, okay, fine. But be very careful about the reactionary moves that you make in April, Matt, because we see it every year. People have these knee-jerk reactions. Next thing you know, they drop a player that they were really high on after one bad start or one bad week at the plate, and they end up regretting it because somebody else scoops them up, and they end up having the year that they thought that they would, but on somebody else's team.
It's this ridiculous because also someone's going to go run out and drop someone to pick up a guy that has an 1,800 OPS on April the 6th. Like, you need to keep these things in perspective. The back of the baseball card, we say it all the time, plays to the back of his baseball card. There's a reason that's become a saying for so long, because it actually works. All right, let's move on now to Ellie De La Cruz. Again, from a fantasy perspective, a great player. From a wagering perspective, a really fun player. Actually did something that is going to give us some names from the past. Ellie De La Cruz, now a part of history. What do you do?
Yeah, Ellie De La Cruz, very exciting player. Hopefully this Reds offense of this weekend is starting to show some signs of life. Oh my goodness, there was 3 straight games they lost 1-0. If there was one more in a row, they would have tied an all-time Major League record for most 1-0 losses in consecutive days. So crazy stuff there. Ellie De La Cruz, 3rd career game with 3+ extra base hits and at least 1 stolen base. That's the most such games by any player, turning 24 since 1900. And it breaks a tie with 2 Hall of Famers who also happen to know something about maybe, the big red machine here. Joe Morgan, he was pretty good. And Orlando Cepeda, another great player there. So great situation here for the Reds to have a young player like Ellie De La Cruz. He's gotten off to a fine start. 2 steals, 2 homers. He's kind of just Ellieing around. Ellie will get red hot. He'll have massive weeks or massive months, and then he'll get a little cold. He can be a little streaky sometimes, but that comes with the evolution of a young player. But Ellie De La Cruz, very special, and we start mentioning things that he's doing in that same breath as guys like Joe Morgan. That's some special, rarefied air for sure.
I'm going to start Ellieing around. I like that a lot. Well done by you, Joe, to coin a phrase.
Yeah.
Joe, you had mentioned how you've been going back to basics, winning with K-props past few days. Have you been on Jesus Luzardo at all? And what do you think his K-prop will be set at for his next start?
Well, I was on Jesus Luzardo in the Phillies to get the first W against the Dodgers, and they did. There you go.
Good.
So somebody's handed the L to the Dodgers finally on Friday, and it was Jesus Luzardo, and I thought it was a good situation. No Freddie Freeman in the lineup. His first start, 11 strikeouts in his debut. That's tied for the second most in a Phillies debut, behind only Garrett Stevenson. Remember him? 12 strikeouts in 1997. A simpler time. Let's see, 1997, I was a sophomore in college, and I had some more hair. Not a lot, but I did have some more hair than I have right now. And Matt, I'm sure, was on a tour bus somewhere. I think he was being a roadie for Rush at the time or something. I'm not sure what he was doing. Yeah,
No, I wasn't there yet. I wasn't there. I wasn't there yet.
He was still just a lad.
My life begins right around 2000. Before 2000 is still just
Striker 2000. Right, the millennium. That's when he got serious. He's like, man,
yeah, I gotta get serious now. We survived Y2K. I gotta get my life in order. About Luzardo, though, a lot of times you see these high strikeout numbers, and then you wait and see what the number is set at the next time around. I'm always looking at 6.5 as my sweet spot, and depending on the price. But you look at a guy like Luzardo and look at the next few starts. Joe is right. Finding K props, finding good total base props early on in the season, on top of some plus money underdog, stand a chance. That's the way to build the bankroll. All right, let's go to the Milwaukee Brewers, a team that I still think is going to be incredibly competitive. They will get some pitching back with Brandon Woodruff. But, Joe, you have an interesting name here. What do we have?
Yeah, look, right now you're in a spot here where the Brewers are hurting, and Woodruff coming back sooner than later would go a long way, and especially if he's healthy. Now, Freddie Peralta had a good start, and Nestor Cortez brought it down, but despite that, the opening to the season was not kind for the Brewers pitching staff. They have the worst ERA in baseball currently, so that is a massive problem. Logan Henderson might be the solution for that problem, so keep an eye on him. Young pitcher at AAA. Mizrowski is not ready from a control standpoint, but you look at the Brewers' 0-4 start, became the first team in Major League Baseball history to have an ERA as a team over 12 in 4 games. They just got obliterated by the Yankees in those bats. It was just crazy. So things will calm down. I still believe in the Brewers. I still think somehow the Brewers might actually win this division. I know that sounds crazy, but if Woodruff comes back healthy and Peralta plays well, and you get, Tobias Myers also working his way back from injury, eventually you're going to get some reinforcements. But don't be surprised if Logan Henderson doesn't show up there, because Henderson is a pitcher that I think right now, if you're looking at a good spring so far in the minor leagues, a good couple starts here for him, that could be a player that moves very quickly through that system. He's got the strikeout potential. He's got everything you're looking for right now. So keep him in mind, because that might be a guy that you end up seeing to make some spot starts. I'm not saying he's going to take over a rotation spot, but he could make some spot starts, and that could be a really interesting streamer potentially in those daily transaction leagues. So there you have it. That's kind of what's going on by the numbers, but there's some other numbers for a Boston Red Sox player that have not been good to start the year. When we come back, we're going to do a deep dive on Rafael Devers, and if we are looking at him as a long-term solution for the Red Sox, or maybe someone else. We'll be right back.
Guys are barreling everything right now that are hitting well. Pitching is usually ahead of hitting this time of year, but torpedo bats is what we're reading about, Tom, and I think it's hilarious.
Will the pitching be out in front, or are the bats actually this strong? So it's going to develop over the course of weeks. And again, if all teams have the ability to do so, be creative with it and get out there and use it.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
They won the game, and a lot of people, I think, are, prematurely writing them off. Like, I heard a lot of people say they're not even making the playoffs this year.
What I give them credit for right now, Scott, I'm not going to pencil them to win the division yet. Let's see how they do. What I give the Red Sox credit for, and this sounds like silly, I give them credit for actually trying this year.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Duke has looked really impressive, and it's why they are a minus money favorite to go ahead and cut down the Nets in San Antonio. Kevin Willard's a hell of a coach. There's no mistaking it. Sussman's going to kill me. I think he's going to do a good job at Villanova. The Villanova people are very happy with him, and they think that he's going to do a great job.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back into FST Fantasy Sports today. Having a great time here. We hope you are as well. Stick around because there's always great quality programming on this network, wall to wall. Joseph, my friend, let's play a game. You are a therapist. You're very astute. You're filled with these nice one-liners. Rafael Devers comes into your office. He lays his body down upon your couch, and he says, I need you to deep dive into me, Dr. Pisapia. Just go with this, Joe. And I need you to talk about the fact that I cannot hit the side of a barn. Please help me.
I feel like this is like a Danny Tanner moment since we're going back to Full House now. You know, it's like Raphael's sitting in this clubhouse and he's all upset. And Danny goes, what's wrong, big guy? And he does mean big guy because he's not in shape. And then he says, I don't like playing DH and this stinks. I like playing in the field. And I know I'm not very good at it. And I didn't work real hard at it. But man, I feel like I deserve it because I was there first. And then Danny Tanner sits him down and says, oh, Rafi, I understand. You know, you like playing with your friends. Yeah, but sometimes you got to put the team first. And then the music starts to swell and he puts his arm around
I'm into it,
and
man.
Says, he says, hey, you know, it's okay, Rafi. It's about sometimes putting other things ahead of you. And, you know, if you do that, you know, you just might find yourself in the postseason. And then when you win postseason baseball, you end up making more money than you even could have imagined. And then you live forever off of that money in that moment that you won a World Series, just like all the other guys in this organization. And Rafi goes, okay, Dad, I'm going to go out there and give it the college try. And then he goes 0 for 21. Then he goes 0 for 21 anyway. So obviously it did not make it. Now, look, he's starting to hit the ball a little bit. Color me unimpressed. I want to talk about this. This is how bad it was, okay? Just for context. So this is the worst starts ever to a season. 2011, Eugenio Velez, 0 for 47. That's pretty awful. Bill Bergen in 1909. That's when Matt was in school. He saw him in 1909, 0 for 46. Chris Davis, 0 for 33 for the Orioles,
I remember
2019.
That. Yep.
I remember that too. Tony Kemp, 0 for 30, 2023. Craig Counsell, 0 for 25 in 2000. And Rafael Devers, 0 for 21. So he was scratching the surface of all-time worst. Now, here's the real reason you should be concerned about Rafael Devers. The miles per hour on his swing is down about 3 to 4 clicks. That might not sound like a lot. It is. It's significant. It's the significance of a guy who throws 95, now throwing 92. Yes. Something's off there. The shoulder is not strong. It's not where it should be. That's A. B, if you look at these two guys, and I have year over year, he is not physically in the same condition. So we can chalk it up to whatever you want. Maybe because the shoulder wasn't healthy, you couldn't work out the way you wanted to. I don't know. Last time I checked, the legs work. So you could run, you could do some other things there. He is not in tip-top shape. And then you add in the concept of, okay, you're transitioning from an everyday player in a position to an everyday DH role. And I've heard everybody, including Edgar Martinez, who is probably arguably the best to ever do it along with Big Papi, talk about how difficult that transition was, but he was committed to it and figuring out what the process was for him to be successful. Devers doesn't seem committed to that idea. He seems like he is pouting about it. His body language stinks. The whole situation, I think, is bad. And I think the Red Sox have to really start to do some soul searching in the next couple weeks ahead. And as fantasy managers too, you got to look at this guy and say, okay, if I sell him now as a quote unquote buy low to other people, maybe he is intriguing. But if I wait too long and I'm 2 months into the season and he's burying me, what is the value in return? Matt, that's the big question to ask.
Yeah. Yeah, well, overall, here's the thing, and just simply get a chance and just pull it up on your phone and watch a couple of Rafi Devers at-bats from this season and watch some from last season, prior seasons. What Joe's talking about here is that the swing becomes very long, the barrel of the bat is dragging behind, and he's just looking foolish. And I'm sure if you were at the ballpark close enough, you could hear that whoosh, whoosh, that so many little leaguers are so familiar with, just that sound of missing. But overall, Joe's right. If you have a season long and you're a Rafi Devers guy, you've got to think about making this move now, because in a little while you're going to be sitting with a lump of coal and you're not going to want to do that. Or you're of the other side to say, back of the baseball card. this is what this guy can do. Look, you did this whole Bob Saget, Danny Tanner funny thing. Bob Saget in real life, God rest his soul, was a filthy, filthy human being. And I like Bob Saget far better than I like Danny Tanner. So let me give you the Bob Saget conversation for the Raffy Devers, but I'll clean it up. This is still a guy that can hit the ball, still put back to ball. If he's pouting or if being a DH is causing him to play differently, then that's something you have to think about. But the swing, Joe's right. There could be some structural issue with the shoulders here. So if I'm a fantasy manager, I'm looking to make a deal, and I'm looking to make it now, Joe.
Yeah, look, I agree. I think the name brand value still brings you something, but long term, I'm concerned about Devers. And this is not a hot take, oh, it's a bad April kind of thing. There's a lot of reasons to be worried about Rafael Devers turning things around long term. We come back, hour 2, the good and the bad of the first week of Major League Baseball. Who's up and who's down? We'll tell you right after this.